All right, good morning. So we obviously have the machine moved over here. We've got the master cylinder back in the inside there is done. So a little bit about that. The service manual didn't actually tell you how to take that particular cylinder out, but was looking in there and an observation looking back behind this control panel. You see this slot in that between the, I guess I'm gonna call it cheek plates for the frame, this main frame that comes all the way down. So there's a slot there, and that's to get to the pin. So it's not quite at the horizontal position to get to it, but I didn't have to take out the main boom cylinder. So what I did is I lifted the machine boom until I was able to line it up. Now it was kind of a difficult chore because I had to keep going back and forth and back and forth, and that's where it lines up. So this particular pin has to be lined up in the center here, so wasn't quite level on the boom. But anyways, so I raised it up, got it to where I could loosen that, and then I used the electric mode instead of the engine, the auxiliary power, and was functioning it from the other side and keeping an eye on it. And we got that cylinder done. I ended up unbolting the head cap up in there and leaving this bottom one pin in because it's behind this plate and I didn't want to have to take that off. So once I got this pin out up here, I ended up booming the boom all the way up, and which is fine. The cylinder just doesn't do anything whenever you're doing that. It didn't move or function, so I slowly watched it to make sure. So we were free and clear to move the cylinder all the way up, boom, cylinder, lifting it all the way so I could actually access it from the top. So the boom was all the way up, and I was in between the main cylinder and the boom, and I was able to access it back here, climbing up underneath around the main boom cylinder, which is in there. So that was straight up. It was a little chore, but we got in there. We pulled that head cap off and then pulled the rod and piston out and left the barrel in there. I covered it up. It was nice and clean on the inside, so nothing needed to be done there. The piston seals were good. Again, it was just the seals on the head cap. So we replaced everything because I had ordered the kit, and it was basically identical to this cylinder here, just it's a longer stroke and a little bit smaller diameter on the piston. So that actually didn't take that long. It only took about an hour and a half to get it up, get the drift, knock the pin out, and then boom it all the way up, and then take everything out and then put it all back together. And it was probably about 15 minutes to line that pin back up, which was kind of difficult because I had to come back and forth from over there at the control panel back up underneath here to see where I was actually lining it up. I could see a little bit on the other side, but I did have to come over here and make sure that I could actually line up the pin. So that being said, it was definitely worth doing. So you see, all this is once I got that piston out, and whenever I was putting the new rod, pistons, seals, everything back together, I filled the barrel up with hydraulic oil, and this was just sacrificial waste because I wanted hydraulic oil on that backside. And then I also filled hydraulic oil on the backside of the piston before I closed it up, and then I just broke the lines loose whenever I pushed it down, so it just pushed the fluid out on the bottom of the cylinder barrel, which is going to be that one there. I loosened it so it just pushed fluid out, and then whenever I got ready to put the head cap in, I loosened that one and it just pushed the fluid out. I had to do that because I couldn't actually build that cylinder on a bench because I didn't want to take this pin out. So it was a little bit more to do it, but that was to keep all the air out as much as I could out of that cylinder once we got that rod cylinder put back together. So the machine was actually sitting over this whenever I was doing it, so it's all oily right here. In doing that, you know, you always find the weakest link. So it fixed the issue with the basket leveling, self-leveling and tilting, but blew out the seals in the basket level cylinder. So I'll get those on order and we'll rebuild that cylinder. And the master cylinder, not the master cylinder, correction, the main boom cylinder looks good. I'm going to order the seal kit for it and have it. And the telescoping cylinder had recently been done. I did see that the rear cap is off on the machine. That was done whenever the guy had actually got the machine, but I mean it's old but new. They had pulled this cover off and got inside there, so, and repaired that cylinder, and they didn't put it back. The cap, to $25 cap plate that goes on that. As you can see, we've got trees to trim around here, that's for sure. Got some dead trees up there, a lot of dead cedars that got sick from the drought. But anyways, we'll get that we'll get the cylinder repair kit in for the basket leveling, and we'll get that taken care of. But all in all, the machine idles perfect. It doesn't have that little rev idle up and down anymore, since we did the fuel flushing and got the good fuel in there. I did put the not biodiesel, the for the life of me I can't remember, diesel biocide. Oh my goodness. Anyways, so I put the diesel biocide in there, so if there's any moisture or anything that gets in there, it's not going to allow any bacterial growth, which is what I believe some of that was, because I did treat the diesel when I got there on location and kind of half expected that to happen if there was any water in it, with all that slime and muck and sand and filth in there. But we got it all cleaned out, so the next task will be doing that one cylinder there. Once we get that, then I'll go ahead and do my projects around here, which is finishing the siding, installing 2 windows on the south end of my house, and then we'll do some tree trimming, pressure washing on the roof, and we'll see what else she's got going on. While I'm here, talk about it. This assembly here, the seal kits for that's about $590. Looks like it's leaking a little, so we'll find out once we get all the cylinders repaired. This will probably be the weakest link, but we'll address that as needed. That's a project there in itself, getting underneath the machine, getting in there. Probably we'll get in there and inspect all these hoses and everything and get it cleaned out better in here. That assembly is about $5,000 new, and about anywhere from $1,900 to $3,000 for a refurbished assembly, rotator assembly. But we're going to rebuild it for about $600 and time. So anyways, machine's coming along. can't complain. She looks a lot better, she's a lot cleaner, and we'll get her even more better by the time we get done. Got the hoses on order as well, to repair those big 1-inch lines. I'll make those up, and we'll address the fittings or anything on these other hoses. They generally look pretty good, so those are the only ones that are my concern, is those main ones on the pump for the suction and supply. So we'll get those done too. Yeah, McDiesel Rehab out.